Shall we begin?
Why not? Welcome to FrankieSense and More. It's like she's got a whole lot of goodness for you with a little bit of sass.
Frankie, did you just say...
She sure did. Not to mention, along with...
Whoops.
Join us now as Frankie Picasso and her new co-host mix it up with authors, musicians, and interviews with world-changing people.
Let's begin, pal.
Okay, let's begin now, because it only makes sense.
And hello there. Welcome back to FrankieSense and More. It is so great to be here with you. I'm so excited. Today we are going to catch up with some old friends and hear about the wonderful humanitarian work that they have been involved in. So it's pretty exciting for me. Last week I told you a little bit about Shivani, and I think at Christmas time I told you about Shivani Singh and Jessica Ventile of the co-founders of Pathfinder Social Enterprise. Shivani and Jess really wanted to do something for the children in the refugee camps in Syria. And Shivani had just moved back to Toronto, and she was hand making gifts, and she had a project, and she was raising money so that she could go over there with a filmmaker, actually, and to do a documentary. And then all kinds of stuff happened. And I gave you a little bit of an update last week, but let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Welcome, Shivani. Tell us about how it all unfolded.
Sure. Okay. So, it was definitely interesting. I got off the plane, it's a long flight. I was going via Lebanon to the western Syrian border, and we were working with some fantastic local guys who, were not clear to talk about very much because a lot of what they do, is allowed because of anonymity, and also, it secures their safety. So, we were working with these guys. I went to Lebanon, and it turned out that they would not let me in. I had all the approvals, but they just wouldn't let me in. They detained me for 5 hours in this room with some other folks who happened to be all, Middle Easterners. There were a couple of Libyans. There were several Syrians actually, and then there were their children as well. And so that was a really intense 5 hours. I remember when it was starting out that for a second I did think that I was going to disappear, which was particularly, you think that you should be terrified in that situation, and I should have been, but I think, the moment things start to go south and you already know that you're heading, towards this sort of dangerous territory, I think your adrenaline just kicks in. So it was just about, just trying to do whatever I needed to do. And so I spent about 5 hours in detention there. I didn't disappear. I did tell everyone, my friends, my family were not made aware until I got back safely or was safely in Egypt. But it was their stories that were really moving. There were these children that I was playing with because they were terrified, and I just thought that they had seen enough.
In the room. Are you talking about in the room?
Yeah.
In the detaining room. So what were you carrying with you when you came there? You were going to distribute some goods. So what were you what were you taking?
So our primary goal was, of course, to take vital winter supplies to these children in the camps so they could survive the winter. And bombing in Aleppo at that time was terrible, and they were getting more and more people in these camps, right? And we also had, for these kids, we had made these little gift bags, chocolate and candy and gum and, just noisemakers and silly little things like that. I had about a 75-pound suitcase that I took with me, and I didn't get to see my luggage in Lebanon. I had no conversation whatsoever. They put me on a plane to Egypt to get rid of me. I was supposed to come back to Toronto, but I stayed in Egypt, legally, of course. And and we ran the project from there. My luggage, it had definitely been opened. It had definitely been tampered with. My suitcase was broken. But, we were able to get those gifts to actually quite a sizable orphanage, to all the little kids in that orphanage. And that was,
in Egypt.
That was really nice. It was I gave them these presents, and it was like I was handing out iPads. They were so excited, and it was just candy. And it was, children taking care of children was very hard to watch. But they were happy, and that sort of made my day.
Well, I guess it's interesting, and when we'll talk to Sam, we'll hear about, those children too, but children everywhere need things. It's not just, you think, oh, let's get the Syrian. And we would have loved for those items to be able to go to the children, and not to discredit the children of Egypt because they needed them too. But it would have been, wonderful to get those warm items to the children in the camps, because it snows there. Like, we don't think of it. I don't know. When you think of Syria, for some reason you think it's warm, but it's not warm, and it's cold, and it snows, and it would have been nice for you to be able to have gone there. Did you have to do a lot of bribing or anything?
I actually did not bribe anyone, and someone actually asked me later if it was that was the problem, that I didn't try bribing anyone, and I did at one point ask the officers if there was absolutely anything I could do to get out of that situation, and they said no, so I knew I wasn't going to win with them. But even when they redirected me to Egypt, Jess and I got on the phone, and we just it was troubleshooting all day, every day, until we could actually get the project delivered successfully. And we were quite surprised, because we reached 500 children, including those children that had recently been evacuated from the orphanage in Aleppo. They were very famously covered by BBC.
Yes.
We got to those guys. And again, I can't speak for the people who were on the ground doing this, but we're collecting the evidences now, and, we're going to present them in this documentary. Hopefully we get a lot of evidence. We can make this small short film, but so we managed to get this project back on track in a really good way.
So were you doing the filming yourself, or were you able to bring someone with you?
Well, I wasn't going to, I did want to bring in a filmmaker, but he was having visa issues, having visited Israel several times. So he was not allowed. So I was going to film for him and send it over. But when I was not allowed in, then I got in touch with the guys we were working with, and I was like, hey, we really need you guys to film everything. Nothing is useless. Just film, send us everything, and we'll try to work with that.
Nice. So did you get some film back already?
Not yet, Frankie. As of last week, they were still heading into Syria and working with these kids. And, the priority is obviously the children. So the filming is going to probably come to us over the next, few weeks, maybe even a month or so. It might be a while. But last I checked, they were setting up these lorries full of stuff to take to these camps and to take to the children inside Syria. So that was last week.
So they're not even letting medical personnel in?
Well, these guys aren't medical personnel, and it's different when you are, say, a Red Cross versus a smaller outfit. With the Red Cross, it's very public. People are watching you. You have to kind of deliver. But these smaller outfits, they could disappear and no one would know. Yeah.
Did you meet any of the White Hat group? Did you meet anybody from there?
Nobody in Egypt was White Helmet. White Helmets are entirely based inside Syria, and I would have loved to go in with them, but I didn't get past the airport.
The White Helmet. Sorry, I meant White Helmet. And if you guys are listening, I've been trying to get you. I want you on the show. I want to talk to you. So.
Yeah, I know. I would love to. I would love to talk to them. I mean, I can't even imagine how they get up every day. I was a mess after 5 hours with, a few of these families. I can't imagine what it must be like every day in their life.
And how were the families handling, the delays with the children? I mean, they were trying to get back into Syria or into Lebanon, or they were in Lebanon trying to get into Syria?
Well, there was a Libyan professor couple. They work in Lebanon. They teach there. They were highly educated, a professor of English and a professor of psychology, her husband. And they apparently go through this exercise every time they try to come in the country. They're given a hard time.
And they live there.
They come and teach there, and they're committed to their job, so they will continue to educate in spite of these barriers, which is amazing. And then there were several Syrians actually, and the one step that really got to me was this very young mother. She had to have been in her early 20s. She had a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. She was terrified for her children. And her children were terrified, and so I'll never forget those guys, and I still cannot talk about them without getting, teary.
And the guards or whoever were there that, had detained you, there was no sympathy on their part for this young mom and her children?
No, they were shouting at the children. And that was Yeah, I was really, I mean, at that time I knew, it's hard because you want to step in, but at the same time, if you step in, you're just giving them a reason to do away with you in a non, Western approved humanitarian fashion. But
like your head goes off or something. Yeah. Okay. Not approved.
Who knows?
I like that.
Right.
Very,
who knows what might happen?
Appropriate.
Yeah, but they were really nasty, and they were not helpful at all. And I switched on my Canadian telephone. Quick shout out to Bell. They've been amazing. I told them my story, and they gave me some money off because it was 45 minutes of her calling the UK, the Netherlands, in Lebanon, even in Syria. And the story was that she was getting supplies to her husband, her mother, her father, her family, basically because they were all left behind while she had been rescued with her children sent to the Netherlands, and they were now threatening to send her to the camps when she had already been rescued. And there is no reasoning with these guys. They don't allow you any sort of communication. There's no water. There's no toilets. It's miserable, and these people don't give you explanations. They just put you on a plane.
Wow. So when they put you on the plane, did they say you're going to Egypt, or you had no idea where you were going to go?
What they said was that, will you buy yourself a ticket out of here? And it was a bit silly of me in retrospect because I was antagonizing them. But I said that, I was fully legal and allowed to be there. And if they were not going to let me in, they had to buy my ticket out. Which I would not recommend. But they said, they grumbled, they threw me back in there. They were kind of incredulous that I would talk back, I guess. And then they found out that my return flight was through Egypt. So what they did was they called Egypt Air and they strong-armed them into putting me on the next flight out of Lebanon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's an experience you're never going to forget.
Nope, not ever. And it just makes me even more committed to going back and finding a new way to do this because, Frankie, I was looking at these kids and I was like, the first thought that entered my mind when I saw them terrified, these were blonde-haired, blue-eyed children from Syria, and I was sitting there thinking, and it's so sad that that's what I would think, but I was sitting there thinking, do you think people would respond differently to these children if they knew they weren't some dark little Arabs running around shouting Quranic phrases at each other? Like, do you think that that's what it is? But I feel like people remove themselves from these scenarios because they're not personal to them. But if they knew that these are just tiny children and they're terrified, I don't believe a human being would pass up on trying to help such a child.
Shivani, we're going to commercial. I'm sorry. We got to say goodbye at this moment, but we'll be back shortly. And you're right. Sure. I think that you are right that they just don't have any they don't know how to respond. Yeah. Because there's no connection for them. Yeah.
Right.
Here we go. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're coming right back.
Getting warmed up. FrankieSense and more will be right back after we pay the bills.
Whenever we hear a recording of our own voice, it always sounds different than we think. This is because the bones in our skull create a resonance from within that makes our voice sound deeper to us. But our recorded voice is how others hear us. I'm sure I'm not the first person who has uttered the words, "I really don't sound like that." Do I? Margaret Thatcher famously underwent vocal training to lower her voice and make her sound more statesmanlike. Recently, British Airways polled Americans and Britons to see who they believed had the sexiest voices. Morgan Freeman was voted #1. If a judge loves the sound of his own voice, expect a long sentence. What's a word for a person who loves to hear the sound of their own voice? A philodox.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Now that school has ended and summer begins, it's time to think about what your children and you will be eating. It's easy to buy junk food snacks for them that they love, but I want to urge you to think again and use this opportunity of new schedules to eliminate or at least drastically reduce your family's consumption of junk food. Trans fats, sodium, hidden calories, genetically modified ingredients are all good reasons to give up processed junk food. There are also phosphates, which are the food additives that doctors are linking to higher rates of weak bones, chronic kidney disease, and premature death. Do you want to eat that? Choose instead to eat fresh fruit like nectarines, peaches, bananas, and berries. Nuts are delicious, as are fresh vegetables and whole grains. Don't settle for junk food. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond. Like us on Facebook.
Well, nobody ever said that missionary work was safe. That's for sure. And going from Lebanon and Syria, Egypt, now we're going to head over to Nicaragua. And we first caught up with Ben and his wife, Megan Griffam. I think it was a year. It might even be 2 now. Gosh, time goes so fast. From Hope Project International. They have a ministry in Nicaragua where they build homes, they provide food and schooling and assistance to families there in Cristo Rey in Managua. Dan, welcome. Good to catch up with you again. Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I know on your website it said that Nicaragua is the poorest country in Central America with 80% of its population living on less than $2 a day. Like, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. And, when you think about how far $2 a day goes, and that's for a family of how many?
Yeah, I mean, there could be, we build homes for families with 4 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids, all living under, one roof. And
right.
The parents are struggling to make ends meet. A lot of times it's just a single mom who's trying to figure out how to make some money to feed these kids, but also what does she do with 6 kids? Where does she go to work? And what does she do with those kids? And so...
Yeah, so what do the kids do all day long? Yeah. Right. And so they typically, like, you're there helping build homes, but what are they living in if they're not living in homes right now?
Yeah, so the area where we work, Cristo Rey, it kind of was like a trash dump community in Managua, and they had to shut down the trash dump, and they pushed a lot of these families into different areas of the country. And about 10,000 families ended up in Cristo Rey. And so they have these plots of land, and a lot of them, they just built homes with whatever they could find on the land. And so, early on it was plastic wrapped around some trees that they already had on the property. And then, maybe over the years they got a little better, a couple sheets of tin, some wood here and there. But, I mean, just our last trip there this January, we built a home for a family who was living in something built only out of plastic. There was no metal, no wood. It was plastic wrapped around trees. And that's what they had been living in for the past 5-6 years.
Wrapped on a tree. And so there, obviously it's just one room, no bedrooms, cooking, everything. Everybody lives in the same.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
living. And then when we come in, we build a home, and it's a solid structure. It's concrete, concrete floor. They got metal. And a lot of times we're going back and visiting families we've built homes for, and they have taken what we've given them and they've added onto it. And so where we gave them a one-room house, that is now 1 out of 3 rooms that they have added on. They've built on. And so it's really cool to see them.
So you've given them hope.
Yeah. They received.
You really have given them hope, and just that bit of inspiration inspired them to build it for themselves now.
Absolutely. They feel like they've been seen, they've been heard, they feel valued, and it kind of changes the direction of their life. So it's really cool to go back and visit families and see them taking steps beyond what we could ever do for them.
I remember there was a minister there. Was his name Julio?
Carlos.
I can't remember his name. Carlos. And Carlos had hurt himself. He'd hurt his, and you needed to get a car for him or a van or something. And you were trying to raise funds. Did that happen?
Yeah. So Carlos was his family with 3 kids, and the only transportation they had for the family was a motorcycle. And so anytime they wanted to go somewhere as a family, half the family had to ride a bus, and the other half would ride on the motorcycle. So one day, taking his daughter to school, Carlos crashes and kind of messes up the motorcycle, hurts his shoulder. And so we had already wanted to get him a better vehicle, obviously. And so we kind of took that as a launching point to say, let's do more for this family. And we set the goal at $15,000. And over the whole year of 2016, we were able to raise just over $13,000 of that. And we took it down there in January, and the money's on the ground there. We have someone searching for a truck for them right now, and it can be purchased any day.
Awesome. I love that. And so $2, what would be a comfortable amount for a family to live on?
Well, Carlos is working out there with those people, and we can't do anything without him out there. And so we looked into supporting his family, and we asked around. And I think the government says that for a family of 4, $400 a month would be the adequate standard of living. And so if there's a family of four that had $400 a month of income coming in, they could survive.
Would that survive? Level. Would that be 3 meals a day? Would that be they could buy clothes? I
think that would kind of be the basics. You'd have shelter and clothing and food. And it was just basics, And so it's a very small amount of money to us. But that's what they would consider to be adequate.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I'm really bad at that. I'm just thinking, so right now they live on about $40 a month or something like that. That's insane. Wow. So $400, it really goes far. It really goes far. Now you built, I don't know if your site's been updated, 39 homes?
Yeah, we had, that was the end of 2016. We ended at 39 homes, and we actually took a team in January of this year and built 6 homes in one trip. The number is now bounced up to 45 homes.
45 homes.
And in those homes, 200 people live in those homes with 126 children.
Oh, my gosh. 45 homes and 200 people. And 2,500 pounds of supplies you provided and 40,000 meals for children.
Yep.
Because like you said, the parents, they're out there trying to make this $2 a day, but they've got 4 or 5 kids, and school they can't afford school because they charge for school. So the kids are out just playing in the dirt and doing whatever they're going to do, get into whatever trouble they're going to get into. And but no food. There's no food for them to eat all day long. And so there's a church there that you guys provide meals for these children now.
Right. And actually the meal, efforts there have really expanded over the last year. We were kind of starting with about 100 kids eating 2 meals a day. And now that has expanded. We've got 150 kids eating 3 meals a day at one location, or 3 meals a week at one location. We've opened another location where 80 kids are receiving a couple meals a week. And we just started a breakfast program because we had great sponsorship, and we got 150 kids in school this year.
That's wonderful. How much does it cost to put a child into school? Like if somebody wanted to give money to you to support a child in school for a year, what would that cost? Or what could they donate for that?
$45 would provide uniform and shoes, which are the biggest hindrance to them going to school, is that uniform and shoes, and also a backpack and their supplies. Because the school
I'm sorry, did you say $25?
45.
Oh, 45. Yep. And that's for one. So one kid could go to school for $45 for the year.
Yep.
Basically.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's incredible. I love that. Yeah.
And we found out a lot of these kids, of the 150 we sponsored, about 80 of them have no reliable food source other than the feeding program. And so we actually started a breakfast program where every day before school they can go have breakfast at the church and then head on to school after that. And so
they must be so malnourished, these children.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible that they survive, because I know that's probably one of the number one, reasons for death for children is malnourishment. So what would they have to eat in your programs? Like what would they have? What would they get?
Yeah, a typical meal is going to be, rice and beans is obviously a staple. And then we always add a protein of chicken, a lot of vegetables, and even spaghetti. Believe it or not, a lot of times when we're there visiting, they're preparing spaghetti for these kids.
Oh, nice.
So,
that's cool.
You can add supplement to it, add bouillon, or add whatever spices and flavors, and kind of make it something that's going to sustain them.
And when you talk about the breakfast program, are you talking about the New Life Nicaragua program, the Child Development Center?
Well,
or is that something different?
That's something different. That's another partner working in Managua, and they're kind of making a lot of changes in what they were doing. It was an orphanage for 14 years. And then it's now transitioning to more child development, where they're not having kids stay overnight in their care, but they've gone into some neighborhoods in Managua that are having, issues with kids being left home alone. Kids are malnourished as well. And so they're kind of creating a place for these kids to go during the day to get off the streets and be brought to health and brought to life. And so it's a great program, but it is separate.
What kind of jobs are the parents doing? Like, what work is there? Besides, I'm guessing that they're going to pick up fruits and vegetables or whatever, farming. But what else would they? What else could they do? I mean, what could they look forward to if they go to school and get educated?
A lot of the parents in the community we work in are working at factories, or if they can't get a factory job, they're going to find their own way. They'll do laundry, go around the neighborhood, do laundry. We built a home for a family that they make 400 tortillas by hand every morning, and they walk the streets of their community and sell those tortillas. And they told us they could do another 400 at lunchtime and another 400 at dinner if they had to make ends meet. So they're either working in a factory or a sugar cane or field, or they're making their own way, with whatever resources they have. They're investing it in something.
So the kids that make the 400 tortillas, like what could they expect to bring in if they sold all of them?
I say if they sold all of those, they would make the tortillas are just one Cordoba each, and
sure.
28 of their Cordobas is one of our dollars, and so they could make, I think, maybe, I'm not a mathematician, maybe $16, $20 for those 400 tortillas.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's a good morning, I guess, if you're living in those situations.
You help them, but there has to be more. Like, it just seems to me there has to be some more. And how do you, like, we got 2 minutes to our break, but quickly, have you experienced, or do you expect to experience any kind of a fallout from, Trump being in power, as far as businesses being down there making things, the factories? Are the factories local factories, or were they American factories?
There's, a little bit of both. I know a lot of Under Armour, the product Under Armour. A lot of it is made in those factories down there.
Oh, wow.
And even American Apparel, some of their stuff is manufactured down there. And so there are some big companies there, textiles, clothing, things like that. There could be an effect on that. I know we'll definitely have to see, and then, just kind of see what happens on that. And we're going to continue doing what we're doing. We kind of haven't felt any resistance on what we do yet. So, yeah.
I would just love to see, another kind of industry be there that wouldn't be affected by America, that, they could actually get into and make money and, look for a bright future.
Absolutely. And I think the education is going to be a huge part of that for these kids, to kind of, learn how to read and write. Maybe learn English as well as Spanish, and that will open up even more doors for them to be bilingual and educated and seek for more. And really, Carlos in the program there, he was always pushing the kids, telling them, some of you are going to be engineers, some of you are going to be doctors, some of you are going to be teachers.
Sure, of course they do.
You're not going to live this lifestyle forever. If you get your education and you seek out, the plan for your life, it can be more.
We're going to go to a commercial break. When we get back, I want you to give us, how people can donate before you go, and let's see if we can't get some more folks sponsoring children. That'd be wonderful. Don't go anywhere.
Absolutely.
We're going to be back. We're going to go to the movies after we finish talking to Dan. Our movie correspondent Brent Marchant is back.
FrankieSense and more will be right back after we pay the bills.
In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Girassi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward, with tips, tools, and advice, and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Oh, the benefits of fiber. A high-fiber diet can lower your blood cholesterol levels, normalize your digestive function, and improve control of your blood sugar levels. It can even help you lose weight by giving you a feeling of fullness longer, so consequently, you don't eat as much. According to Livestrong, the University of Illinois says that we should be consuming 25 to 35 grams of fiber every day. The Journal of the American Diabetic Association found that a diet consisting of whole grain oat cereal, which is high in fiber, decreased LDL levels, which is the bad cholesterol, by almost 8% among overweight adults. So load up on cereal, grains, fruit, and vegetables, and increase your fiber intake. I'm Annette Hammond. For more fitness and weight loss tips, visit our website at AnnetteHammond.com.
And we're back at FrankieSense and more. I am your host, Frankie Picasso. We were talking to Fan Griffam from Hope Project International. And I hope that you were thinking about how many kids you want to sponsor to go to school, because I certainly have. Fan, can you tell us, I know that, as I mentioned, Hope Project International, there's a few other charities with the same name, but we want to make sure that our money goes to you guys. So give us your web address, please, and tell us how we can donate.
Absolutely. You got to go to hopeprojectintl.com. So you're thinking hopeprojectinternational.com. And when you get there, really, there's a lot of different things you could give towards. And whatever your heart feels, it could be, give towards food for kids, for shelter, for families, or if you want to send some kids to school. Search around the website, and you can kind of pick a project and give, and your money will go directly to that project.
And they can go on a mission with you, too. They can come down there and do physical work, right? Build a house?
Yeah, we have had, 150 people join us in Nicaragua over the last couple of years and get their hands dirty building homes, feeding kids, meeting these families, and it's really a life-changing experience for everyone involved when you go down there and walk those streets. And
how much would that cost?
So a trip is $850 plus your airfare, and that's like an all-inclusive deal. It's your lodging, your food, everything you need while you're there is taken care of in that pricing. So most of our trips come in at about $1,400.
Okay, that's awesome. Dan, Thanks so much for coming back and giving us an update. Give our regards to Megan and the kids, and I'm just so pleased that you are continuing to do what you do, and that's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Well, I said he's here. Brent Marchant is back. He is our Good Radio Network movie correspondent, and we missed him last week. It was my fault, but he's here today, and he's here for a little bit longer too. So we get to talk about all kinds of great things. Welcome, Brent.
Hi, Frankie. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's great to be back. It feels like it's been forever since I was last here.
I know. Like since Christmas almost. It feels like there's so much going on, and there's, like I said in our break, it feels almost disrespectful in some ways to go from, talking about people who are desperately needy to people who go see the movies. But I think no matter what, everybody likes to go and do something to alleviate their sorrow, or even in times of war, people went to see the movies, I think, because it just helped somehow. Not that, I can equate this with that, but
and the point and the point with movies with meaning is just what the title says. We want to try and present movies to listeners that are going to offer hope, inspiration, enlightenment, and so forth, that they can carry with them out of the theater and into their everyday lives with them.
Yeah, and we got some really great movies we're going to talk about today.
We sure do. Before I get to those, one thing I wanted to say was congratulations on the website being back up.
Oh, thank you. It's not complete yet. I'm still having tweaks with it, but thank you. Yeah, I had mentioned to folks that it was gone, and because I was really angry. I really thought someone had targeted me. Somebody had gone into and trashed all 4 of my websites, if you didn't know about it. And I thought maybe it was a person, but now I'm thinking it wasn't a person at all, that it was a bot that are just people, are malicious in some ways, and they put these things out there to target because it's fun for them, and they can. And that's just it. And I was random, and I got targeted.
Well, I'm certainly glad it's back up, because that means also that the Movies with Meaning page is back
That's
up.
right. That's right.
Yep.
And we're back.
The first host for that went up yesterday. And on that page, listeners will find extended reviews of some of the movies we're going to talk about today, as well as links to some interesting little movie-related tidbits, such as a link to my latest magazine article for New Consciousness Review, their Conscious Cinema series, as well as a link to my website blog, which contains my top and bottom 10 movie lists of 2016. So there's some interesting reading on there. So I hope
there is.
Yeah, I hope listeners will take the time to check it out. They'll find a lot of interesting stuff there, and give them some more insight about the movies.
Well, Brent's not always a great talker. He's a wonderful writer. So please go and read what he has to say, because I think you'll find it very interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So
well,
for the
where are we
movies
going?
we got today? Well, Two of the movies we're going to talk about today are both Academy Award nominees, and they're also included in the first Movies with Meaning blog. The first one is the movie Hidden Figures, which is a wonderful crowd pleaser.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a wonderful crowd pleaser that details the story of the contributions made by African American women to the U.S. space program in the 1950s and 60s. It's a story that, up to this point, has received virtually no attention and certainly very little appreciation for what these people did. But it's remarkable in the way it details the odyssey that they had to face in terms of the accomplishments they pulled off and the circumstances under which they did it. It's the kind of movie that really inspires anybody who has dreams of, tackling something big and succeeding at it. The film stars Taraji P. Henson, Octavia Spencer, and Janelle Monáe, and explores specifically the individual odysseys that they went through in realizing their dreams through the space program as African American women. And it comes across as a kind of a combination comedy and drama. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like it's a fusion of two very different films. I thought of The Right Stuff, which came out in the 80s, detailing the American space program, and The Help, which came out in 2011, which is talking about the role.
Also starring Octavia Spencer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. She's wonderful.
It's a very interesting fusion of those two genres. So it makes for some very, very interesting viewing. The other thing I was really pleased to see about this movie is that it won the box office, I believe, 2 weekends in a row. And it's not the kind of movie that you would typically think would draw that kind of attention and that kind of a crowd. So it's really encouraging to me to show the movie industry that there's a place for stories that don't involve robots and explosions and all kinds of high drama. That there is a place for people who are interested in seeing movies that entertain and enlighten at the same time.
I agree. And, it was really nice to see John Glenn in that role of, being very progressive.
Yes.
And, as a man, as a white male in, 60 USA. So that was really nice to see. And Kevin Costner, too, of course. I didn't expect any less from him.
Well, that was one of the real ironies in this story, and the fact that, here you have these women who are coming into this really remarkable opportunity for their careers and their personal growth and their development, and yet once they were inside the agency, in many ways, they still face the same kinds of discrimination and segregation that they faced in the outside world. And, it's kind of ironic that you would think in an environment like that they shouldn't have to contend with that, but, as the agency being, yet another part of everyday society, those things carry over. And, your battlefields don't know any boundaries in a lot of ways. You still have to combat them even in places where you think they wouldn't exist.
Yeah, and it starts off really with the separate washrooms and how Katherine Johnson had to run almost a mile to go to a bathroom that was for colored women. From where she was sitting, and they go, well, how come you're late? How come you're late all the time? Well, because I have to run to the damn bathroom, and it's not in this building, and she couldn't take a golf cart. She had to walk, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And I love that when that came to light, Kevin Costner's character, that's not acceptable anymore.
Well, exactly.
That's great. So they became enlightened because they didn't think about it. They didn't know about it. It didn't make, nobody thinks about anything until their eyes are opened.
Well, exactly. And the thing is, in addition to the inherent unfairness of something like that, there was also the impact on her productivity. I mean, having to take the time away from her job every day just to go to the bathroom is crazy. So thankfully, we've come a long way since then. Let's hope we're not going to be making any retreats back to the way things were either.
Yeah, let's hope not. Although somebody's trying desperately to take us there. I was very surprised about. Actually, I just asking Karina if she'd ever heard of Katherine Johnson, like during Black History Month. Had she ever come up? Oh, she did. Good. I was just watching a video of Katherine. She's 98 years old right now. Today, and as of January anyway, and she said her greatest accomplishment was staying alive. Like very, very modest. I mean, incredible mind. She graduated, she was 14 years old when she graduated high school. Like just an absolutely brilliant mind.
And the other thing that was amazing was that all these women were doing all these incredibly complex mathematical computations without a computer.
And they were called computers, weren't they? They called the girls computers.
Calculators, yeah.
Yeah, or calculators. And then what I loved to see was Dorothy Vaughan, which was played by Octavia Spencer, when she saw the first computer, and what were they called? IBMs. That she saw the IBM, and she kind of looked at it, and she kind of figured it all out. She knew that the future, that's where the future was, and she was going to be part of the future. Otherwise, she was going to be left behind. So she created that role for herself, and that's awesome. That's awesome to see. Now, here's something, Brent, I wanted to ask you, because Hidden Figures was, Octavia and Janelle both got Best Supporting Actress role nominations. Taraji, nothing.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Yeah. Do you think it's because of her character on Empire? Do you think she was slated for that?
A lot of times when it comes to movies that have impressive ensemble casts in awards programs, they can't nominate everybody. So they end up picking somebody who ends up being sort of like the representative of the class. It might seem a little unfair that they're singling out one person, but... They
singled out two.
Yeah,
because both of them, except for the third actress, didn't get it. And she was the lead actress, really. Yeah. That's kind of weird.
Most of the awards competitions so far have picked Octavia. There was one that picked Janelle.
Yeah.
But basically, they end up being kind of like the class representative, simply because they can't nominate everybody. I can think of other examples over the years, like back in the 80s when the movie Cocoon came out. They picked Don Amici to be like the representative of the cast. Or when the movie Crash came out a few years ago, they picked Matt Dillon to be the representative of the cast. So Octavia, having probably the biggest name of the three, having been a former Oscar winner herself,
she's wonderful.
They sort of latched on to her and said, "Yeah, okay, we'll make her the class representative for her cast," even though, we're recognizing her performance. It's really for all three of them.
Yeah, and I'm sure when The Shack comes out, she's going to be nominated for that too. I have a feeling. Yeah. We're going to go to a commercial break, though, in just a few seconds. When we come back, think about the movies that you love. Think about them, and if you want, you can give us a shout, 903-787-5887 if you want to call in, or just sit back and listen to what we're going to talk about these movies, because I'm sure you're going to want to go see them. I know I go to see the movies, and Brent loves the movies, obviously. I try to go every weekend because I do love them. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back with more Brent Marchant and Conscious Movies.
Heck no, we're just getting warmed up. FrankieSense and more will be right back after we pay the bills.
It's words you never heard. There are more cats in U.S. households than any other pet. Most allurophiles or cat owners know that unlike dogs, taking Kitty for a ride in the car isn't any fun. I mean, you never see a cat hanging its head out the window, enjoying the breeze. Today's domestic cat is descended from a small Mid-Eastern wildcat. A group of kittens is called a Kindle, and a group of adult cats is a clouder. What's the word for those dust balls composed entirely of cat hair? Fluffernuggins. Personally, I like pigs better than either cats or dogs. Dogs are subservient and look up to man. Cats are aloof and look down on man. A pig, however, will look you in the eye and see as equal. It's words you never heard. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words. It's words you never heard. If you're like me, when you've finished dining at a restaurant, you hate waiting and waiting for the check to arrive so you can pay and get on with your day. I admit my rocket, as my kids call it, starts going off, and my husband always wants one more cup of coffee, and I'm ready to go, wiki, wiki, let's go. It's not that I'm tense. I'm just terribly alert. My husband always has a cup of coffee in his hand, so much so he is wearing out the handles of our coffee mugs. But then again, he's not as bad as the French writer Voltaire, who drank 70 cups of coffee a day. I can't drink coffee before going to bed because I get too wadgety. My husband, on the other hand, can drink several cups of Joe and go right to sleep. And I'm not talking slumgullion. That's weak coffee.
It's marching down.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
And we're back. You're listening to FrankieSense and More. I'm your host, Frankie Picasso, and my guest, well, not our guest, our returning movie correspondent, Brent Marchant, is with us. And today we're having a little bit longer with him, which is really great. We just finished talking about Hidden Figures, and now we're going to talk about Fences. Another great movie.
Fences is another terrific movie, and it's another one that features a African-American cast, and it's good to see that those kinds of terrific roles are becoming available for the people in those kinds of movies. Fences is based on the play. It's a stage adaptation of the stage play by August Wilson that tells the story of a character named Troy Maxson, who is kind of a walking contradiction in a lot of ways. He's had a bit of a checkered past. He's trying to make up for it, but he's also at times kind of turning around and shooting himself in the foot for some of the things that he does. Set in 1950s Pittsburgh, the movie stars Denzel Washington in the lead role, and his wife is played by Viola Davis in a terrific supporting performance. This is a really intense movie to watch in a lot of ways because there's a lot of very intense emotion, but there's also a lot of really good humor in it too. So you get kind of a mixed bag in terms of the moods that it creates throughout the course of the movie as it plays out. One criticism that some people have had about it is that they felt it was a little stagey. I personally didn't feel that with this. I mean, at least compared to other movies that I've seen where they've gone from a stage to screen adaptation, I thought this one moved along pretty well for the most part. But the thing that's really impressive here is the acting. It's just absolutely stellar. Denzel Washington in the lead role, he's been nominated for an Oscar. Viola Davis in a supporting role, she's been nominated for an Oscar. And actually everybody else who's in it, too, is just terrific. One of the characters in it, played by Michael T. Williamson, is also wonderful. And unfortunately, he's somebody who's been completely ignored during award season, which I'm kind of at a loss to understand that one because he's wonderful. He plays a character who suffered from a World War II head injury and is now kind of delusional. And
his best friend.
His brother.
His brother.
Yeah, and then there is a character who plays his best friend, played by Stephen McKinley Henderson, somebody who has played a lot of supporting and character roles over the years, and finally getting a really good, meaty, solid performance where he can shine in his own right. He does a terrific job in this, so I really recommend it. It's something that's it's not quite as not quite as light and bouncy as Hidden Figures,
right,
but certainly worth your time.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible role for Denzel. It might even be his best role, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the best work he's done since Malcolm X. I mean, really, and I think he stands a pretty good shot now at winning an Oscar too. But we'll save the Oscar predictions for the show later.
Yeah. So the Oscars are coming. February 26th.
and I'll be back on the 23rd to offer my predictions. So.
Yeah, there we go. And I'd love to hear your predictions, folks. Send them in. Let's see if yours line up with Brent's. How did you do last year?
In the top 6 categories, I picked 5 out of 6.
There you go.
So
bookies like those odds.
it's a little trickier this year. The handicapping is a little more difficult than it's been in the past because things aren't quite as clear cut. So we'll see how things play out over the next couple of weeks, and I'll report back. So
well, maybe tell us what movies are up so that everybody has a chance to go and watch them.
Well, there's 9 pictures that are nominated for Best Picture, including La La Land, Moonlight, Arrival. Manchester by the Sea, Hacksaw Ridge, Hidden Figures, Fences, Lion, and Hell or High Water.
Okay, I haven't seen Hell or High Water.
That's an interesting one. I didn't think I was going to like that, and because it's been classified as like a modern day Western, and I was trying to figure in my mind how can there be like a modern day Western, but it's really very cleverly written. And it has a surprisingly interesting moral tone running through it that you wouldn't expect to find in a story like this.
No, I did see Hell or High Water. Sorry,
yeah.
I did see it. Yeah. Jeff Bridges is in it.
Jeff Bridges, Ben Foster.
Yeah, I saw it. I loved it.
Chris Pine. Yeah, it was really very well done.
It was. So. I love that movie. Oh, I'm sorry. So, I saw Lion last week. I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah,
the topic is obviously, emotional, but it wasn't like great acting.
I thought the first hour was quite good when the kid was on his way to becoming lost in the streets of India. I thought that was very well handled. But the second hour just kind of turned into like an extended commercial for Google Earth. I mean, a lot of crying, a lot of emoting. It's kind of like, okay, we've seen this before,
Yeah, so, exactly. And I love the actor. I do love him. But La La Land, like we just said, La La Land's an interesting little movie. Parts of it I love, parts of it I didn't, and I didn't know what the big hullabaloo is. Though I didn't really get that. Not really.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you about that. I actually wrote a blog piece about it titled "What Is It with La La Land?" because I kind of came away from it saying I don't understand really what everybody is raving about with this. It's kind of a mediocre musical in a lot a
Yeah,
technically very well made.
Yeah, John Legend, but he's not there for a lot of it. He's just like a bit of it. So I think
the music is pretty forgettable. I didn't come away from it saying, wow, these are going to be tunes that I'm tapping my foot to 5 years from now.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Now, I know that you liked Arrival. I liked Arrival too, but I don't think it stands up against Hidden Fences.
No, I think it's it may be a little too esoteric for viewers. It did receive quite a few nominations in technical categories, so it will probably pick up some things there. But as far as the big prizes, I don't think it's going to come away with much there.
So, folks, you better go see these movies so that you can vote with us on the 23rd and see how you stack up against Brent, who 5 out of 6 is pretty darn good. I'll give my predictions too, and we'll see if we're similar or not. But I loved Hell or High Water. I can't believe I forgot the title. Yeah, I really liked it a lot.
Well, the other thing that's interesting too is that a lot of theaters right now have brought back all the 9 nominees, which is something you don't usually see, and I'm glad to see that because, to me, movies are still meant to be seen in theaters.
Yeah.
It's fine to watch them on DVD, but it's hard to beat the movie-going experience.
I love going to the movies. It is expensive, but if you go on 2 for 1 night or something, I'm sure that you can get there and ask someone. Our kids always give us movie tickets because they know we like to see the movies, so that we always get those. But I love them, and I don't like to watch them on TV, and I don't even like to watch them twice. My husband will watch the same movie, like, oh, Gladiator's on again for the 100th time. I like to see it fresh, and I don't know what's going to happen. That's how I like to see it. But a lot of people, but there are, sometimes you see movies again and again, and you get more out of them. There are those movies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's certain ones I really like, I will go see them the second time or more. But it still doesn't compare to your first time through because you don't have the expectations at that point.
Right. Yeah. So, but if you love movies as much as we love movies, let us know because, there's a lot of movies out there, a lot of movies. Now, you are fortunate being in Chicago that you get a lot of the movies before I do. You get them in normal movie houses. I have to go to obscure movie houses to see a movie like Hell or High Water that didn't really make mainstream theaters. There's a lot of movies that don't make mainstream theaters, which really gets me because it's like, do they think that the audiences are just stupid and that they just need something that's going to, that you feed them? Hand feed them the whole story or something.
That happens a lot. I mean, if you're in a market that doesn't have a big draw for those kinds of audiences, the movie houses just won't book them.
Yeah.
And, you may end up seeing some of these films only playing in half a dozen cities across the country where they know the market is big enough that they're at least going to draw some money, from the box office for it.
Yeah.
But,
Or they don't put them in. They put them in for, one day or something, or at 11 o'clock at night or some obscure time. They don't even give people a chance to say, hey, yeah, you know what? I would like to see that movie. Mm-hmm. Or give us credit for our brains or something, So that really gets me. But if you're fortunate to have a movie like Chicago and Toronto do, you have kind of like a what do you call them? Festival. You get to see a lot of really great movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's two independent movies out right now also that if you have the chance to go see them, I recommend them highly. I'll mention just quickly in passing. One is a film called Patterson, and the other one is a French film called Things to Come. Both terrific, and both of them have to do with the idea of learning to appreciate what's really important in life. They both include characters whose lives help us to reconnect with the things that really matter in our existence, not the distractions that we keep ourselves occupied with, or not the intellectualism that we tend to, occupy our mind with, to the point where we lose sight of what's really important. So I recommend both of those highly.
Oh, that's Patterson, the one with Adam Driver. Yeah.
Yes.
I went to see Sing last week. And I dragged my husband because, he goes, I don't want to watch an animated film. But you know what? We both loved it. It was a lot of fun. It really was a good job. So, I don't know.
Animated movies, they're not just for kids anymore.
No, they're not just for kids anymore. They're not. So you've got some homework to do. You've got two movies that Brent just mentioned, Things to Come and Patterson, which are, little gems. If you haven't seen any of those 9 Oscar nominee movies, go see them so that you can vote with us and we can talk about them a little bit more in detail on the 23rd of February. And go see Hidden Figures if you haven't, because it is just a beautiful movie. And, of course, Fences, I think that you will be moved. I love Viola Davis. I mean, I think she's amazing. And Terji, I'm sorry that you didn't get nominated because my vote was on for you, too. Don't worry. I'm really looking forward to The Shack with Octavia. I just think anything she's in, she just makes everything brilliant. So we got a minute to go. Brent, you've got a new book coming out. Do you want to mention it?
Sure do. It's going to be coming out later this year. It's titled Third Reel, R-E-A-L. Conscious Creation Goes Back to the Movies. It's a continuation of the series I started with its 2 predecessors, Get the Picture and Consciously Created Cinema. And the cover design looks great, and the writing's coming along really well, and I'm really looking forward and excited about releasing it.
Yay! Well, if you want to know more about the movies, come back to us on February 23rd when Brent comes back to visit with us. Anyway, I thank you all for tuning in each and every week on FrankieSense and More. I am your host, Frankie Picasso. You were listening to Brent Marchant talk about the movies, and then Griffam from Hope Project International and Shivani Singh from Pathfinder were with us today. You take care wherever you are in the world, day or night, and we will see you next time. Thanks again, Karina, for producing the show, and thanks each and every one of you for tuning in. Take care now. Bye-bye.
See on the beat, Hit Rash Production.
Shit, now you be the one way to turn the world around. Shit, now you be